Swagu. Dan Orlovsky here as well to break down all things from the first night of the NFL draft. And we're going to start with some NFL superlatives from night one. Neek, what was the best move of the first round?
I think it was Matthew Golden. The Packers broke their tradition and decided to draft the flyest dude in the building in their first receiver in a long time, who ran 4.2. That speed is incredible. And then having it in Green Bay for him to take over that crowd, like that made the pick itself even better than having him there yelling, "Give me a Green Bay Packers on 3." It was so much fun, and he's an awesome, explosive, big play threat.
Yeah, Jordan Love got himself a nice talent. Graziano, what was the biggest steal of round one?
There were a lot of teams that sat tight and got the guy they wanted, but the Colts getting Tyler Warren really felt like a home run. With the Bears taking Colston Loveland earlier, this felt all along like the player the Colts were hoping to get. There was talk about them potentially trading up, which would have taken GM Chris Ballard out of his comfort zone, so he didn't have to do that. He still gets the tight end they've been looking for years. I feel like they probably sitting here today thinking the Bears did them a favor.
All right, Orlovsky, our big next superlative. What was the biggest question mark in the first round?
Yeah, I'm going to say Ashton Genty. The player, very good player. But the Raiders, and under the new regime, their first pick being a back, last year the Raiders as a football team averaged 3.4 yards per carry. That's the worst for a team since 1996. And it wasn't just the back. So
the biggest disappointment of round one?
I think not seeing Shedeur go in the first round, particularly to the Pittsburgh Steelers. And that's not to take anything away from Harmon, who they drafted, who I think is a really good defensive tackle. But I thought quarterback should have been addressed in Pittsburgh. And again, we saw Kenny Pickett a few years ago. That didn't work out, and they're back in this revolving cycle. So I would have loved to see Shedeur go 21 and see if he could become the quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers in the future, especially with the moves that they made with DK Metcalf, and also you got George Pickens out there as well. I just thought that would have been a good possible marriage for them.
We saw 21. We ID'd that as a spot. When it didn't happen, we wondered if he was going to slide out of the first round, and in fact, he did. And speaking of Shedeur, he took to Instagram last night after not being selected and said this.
We all didn't expect this, of course, but I feel like with God, anything possible, everything possible. I don't feel like this happened, for no reason. All this is, of course, fuel to the fire. And under no circumstance, we all know this shouldn't have happened. But we understand we're on the bigger and better things. Tomorrow's the day. We're going to be happy regardless. Legendary.
Look, you got to give him credit for doing that after what was a tough night for him personally. Every player waits to hear their name picked in the NFL draft. He did not. Graziano, I want to start with you. What was it, now that we have a morning after the first round of the draft, what is it about Shedeur Sanders, the quarterback, that the teams that needed one elected to pass?
It's a collection of individual decisions, right? They didn't all get together and say, let's push Shedeur Sanders out of the first round. The Browns felt like they needed too much, and they have more picks to address. They could still get him tonight.
Right.
The Saints felt like he wasn't their guy to the extent that they needed to rebuild other aspects of their team, specifically the offensive line. Say the same thing about the Steelers and the defensive line. It's just only 2 quarterbacks went in the first round. Last year, it was 6 in the top 12. This class was not viewed as a bunch of elite quarterback prospects. Teams like Shedeur Sanders, they believe he's going to be a good player. But there wasn't something about him that screamed, I got to have this guy in the first round, and that's what ends up happening. If there had been more quarterback-needy teams, if more quarterbacks had been flying off the board early, it might have been different. But considering one went at 1 and one went at 25, and that was it, there was no need to push it.
I want to bring in Orlovsky because this one's different, Dan, because there's 2 Shedeurs. There's the quarterback prospect, and there's the celebrity attached to it. Those are 2 different things this morning. From a quarterback prospect perspective, what did you make of him slipping out of the first round?
Yeah, Matt, I wasn't surprised by it. I thought there was the chance for him to go at 21, and I was on the board of Steelers take a shot. But here's, one, we don't have to have the Shedeur funeral, okay? We don't have to. This is not the end of Shedeur's story. Right. I would fully expect him to get drafted tonight. 2, this could be a good thing. This could be a thing where he goes to a team that is a little bit more suited to handle the style of play. But I think the thing that got lost in all of this and a lot of the noise and chatter is teams go through an evaluation process, and this is why the evaluation process does matter. Whether it's 2 years from now the right thing or not, is they don't evaluate college kids during the NFL season that much. I was one during the college season last year who I thought Shedeur would be a top 5 or top 10 pick. And then when you started to really study Shedeur's tape after the season, all 22, every single snap, you sit there and go, I don't necessarily see that anymore. And when you go through that and you go, what game was taken over? What's the wow factor? What's he going to become in 2 years? I think that's why you saw what happened last night. It doesn't mean that he's not going to be a good pro. It's just teams go through an evaluation process after the season. I think that's partly on the field why he ended up not being in the first round.
All right, so what did you see in the all-22 that changed your mind?
I thought I saw a good player. I saw a player that played in rhythm and on time. I saw a player that held the ball too long. I saw a player that took too many sacks. I saw a player that forced the football to a singular receiver at time. I saw a player that had bad protection. Matt, this is why I said it's the toughest evaluation I've had at that position since I've been in this job. Yeah. Because there was such bad protection at times that it created bad habits. And then you look, okay, the bad habits, a player like Caleb Williams held the ball too long, but good Lord, he's ridiculously talented and athletic. And then you wait for those moments with Shedeur, and those weren't there. So that's kind of why you sit there and go, good player, I don't know if he's got the physical traits to be great.
Marcus, let's look at this. I want you to go big picture with me here because, as I alluded to Dan, there's the quarterback prospect and there's a celebrity of which Shedeur can't help. He was born into the Deion Sanders family. But that, at some point, people are looking at that and saying, hey, that's why. Where do you stand on all this?
That's not why. I talked about this the other day. It has something to do with his full entire story. But the bottom line is, and look, let me say this too. All right, y'all know we don't have to be apologetic for Shedeur Sanders not getting drafted. 32 teams didn't draft him. They got 6 more rounds left in this draft and an opportunity for him to go pro. And I know that like we sometimes we have an affinity for these kids. Like Dan does breakdowns. Dominic, we've all been doing drafts for a long time. We want to see them live their dreams. We want to see them drafted where they want to be drafted. But that's not always the case. I wanted Lamar Jackson to be a top 5 pick. He ended up going 32nd. So this whole, like I love what Dan said. We are not in mourning. It happens every single year where somebody doesn't get drafted, where people think they're going to get drafted. Shedeur is a good player, and people have said that ad nauseum. The anonymous, he's not good, or he got bad attitude, or the interviews was bad. The hell with that. When people don't put their name with something, I immediately dismiss it, okay? But here's the truth in it. Shedeur does not play the position like the guys that we've seen teams reach for. And that's what we were thinking.